Hi everyone, I'm Annissa, and this is Well FM's all-new series, Collector's Insight. In this show, we delve into the minds of art collectors and museums in the NFT scene, otherwise known as non-fungible tokens. My guest today is Pablo Rodriguez Ferry. Pablo of the Museum of Crypto Art is an early investor in Ethereum and one of the major participants in the 2017 ICO season, participating in early investments such as Algorand, Hashgraph, Clayton, and Avalanche, to name a few, and it has a unique insight into the art of collecting and the rise of virtual museums. Please enjoy. Pablo, thank you so much for coming on. And to start us off, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and how you first became involved in the art world and then the NFT crypto art space.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hi,
It's
of
a pleasure.
course.
It's a pleasure being here. And first of all, congratulations for all the recent successes in the Well community. It's great to see the community growing and the thesis put forward a few months back and all the work put together coming into place. So congratulations to all.
Thank you. Yeah, so to begin with, I love to kind of know how you first became involved in the art world and then how you became a collector in the NFT crypto art space.
Certainly, it was more for me a journey through the blockchain space. Um, if you, I do have a mathematics and an economics background, and I've been involved in the blockchain space now for a few years. As you mentioned, as an investor, and early in the year, early in 2020, in the roundtable, I met some people with that had. And Steve Wan in particular, that was showing more interest for what was happening in the space, in the NFT space, both in the land market and in the art market. And I had done some things with Decentraland back in the 2017 ICO boom, and I decided to start looking a little bit more into the space. I really liked all the innovation that I saw. So I started this as a hobby, and then one of my very good friends and partner Colborne, we've been very good friends for a very long time. He also started having more interest for the art space, and we started looking at it in more depth, and I guess here we are now.
That's amazing. So I would kind of want to know like how that transition kind of began, like being being immersed in this space and then starting Mocha. So I kind of want to understand what the origin of Mocha was and how did it start?
Surely, yeah. So again, we were looking at this space, and Colborne started having more interest for what was happening in the art market, and we started looking at that at it, and it was just very since the beginning, it was captivating in every sense. It was very fun to just be involved with everybody, so there's a few connections here that really made it so that we became involved with art. The first thing is that my wife is a designer and an architect, and she's an artist and photographer as well. That in itself, in my house, we're always surrounded by art, and that was always something that was very present. And then with Colburn as well, it's one of his passions. So we decided, we accumulated a significant amount of land, and we decided what was the best way to really like put it to use. And we thought that it would be an incredible innovative thing to build these worlds by and for the creators, which we believe are really the ones that can really push this forward and make these places as desirable as we want. The idea came up from there. It was also Colborne that had a visit to a museum in Brazil, which is an outdoor museum called Inhojim, that has different stages. It's humongous, and it's just a beautiful place to be at. We had the idea to somewhat replicate this in the digital world. And little by little, we started, collecting some art. We started getting more in contact with the creators, and we really felt very comfortable in this space. We just kept doing that. I will add that in a similar way to I guess to Whale Shark, both Colburn and I, started this really as a hobby, as a passion. And now it has certainly, become, of considerable size and perhaps influence. But the reality is that, we also do other things on the day to day. So this is really the ultimate driver behind this. It's really because we really do enjoy it, and because we like what we do.
That's amazing. And you mentioned that you had art pieces before even coming to this space, that your art, your house is art. So, what was the first artwork that you actually purchased, and how has your taste or style evolved over time? And in what ways did that take shape?
Uh, are we talking only about digital, or can we discuss physical as well?
Yes, physical for sure as well.
Yeah. So the most of the art in my house was bought by my wife. But my first art piece was probably a Javier Iturralde. He's a Spanish artist that I quite like. It's called Blue, and it was a wonderful experience. And then again, you know. What you enjoy about the process is similar to what we enjoy here in the digital sense, which we rarely go for individual pieces, but we rather, really get to know the artist, why they're doing what they're doing, why they are, the story behind, and where they fit in the current state of I don't want to call it the market, but in the current state of the
Mm.
industry. Hmm.
That's very interesting. I kind of want to understand more, I guess, like how you kind of choose pieces. So I'd love to kind of, have you describe yourself. Like, how would you describe yourself as an art collector
Okay,
or your
that's a
style?
tough question. That's a tough question. But okay, I think that back to what I was saying before. I really do focus not so much. Obviously, the first thing, obviously, you gotta like the art. Aesthetically, it has to be pleasing for you. But for me, it's not so much about individual pieces, but rather about the creator behind. There's a lot of very talented people, but it takes the right type of person to really have a career where time after time they're really being thoughtful about what they're putting out there, and their stuff just keeps on evolving, and it's just of absolute top quality. So I have certainly evolved in that. I really now mostly focus on those people that can repeatedly show that they're being very conscious and thoughtful about how they approach this space. And certainly they have to have talent, but this sounds a little bit cold, but it really isn't cold. It's just an encouragement for many creators to really start thinking in this way. But I do have a little bit of background in investing in early stage companies and just in nascent markets. And it's very, very, very important, for me, that creators are thinking about their careers as a whole rather than individual pieces. So for me, that is very, very important.
That is
And
very,
it's not it's not like a creator shouldn't wake up one morning and have a beautiful idea, and certainly they should be able to express themselves how they choose. But if they really want to have a long-term career in here, I think they really have to really think about how do certain collections come into play. How am I going to display this in the different places, and why am I minting this at this time? How is the auction going to be, if there's going to be an auction? And all these things are very, very important of how they play with each other. So I really focus on that rather than individual pieces.
so it's more about, instead of focusing the short term, you kind of look at the long term horizon of why someone's doing it instead of just how.
Certainly, and again, it's not that it's just like one piece that everybody loves that becomes important. It's really about really getting behind those creators that can consistently put out quality work, and that they're constantly evolving and pushing better things, and in a thoughtful manner. Very important. There's another
Right.
point I think touches on another question that we will have later, but for me, it's also very, very, very important, the collectors behind. So I personally believe, there has been a rush in the last few months, and it's understandable. It's what happens in these type of markets. But there has been a rush to obviously to for hype and for auctioning absolutely everything, and to put all the collectors somewhat against each other to try to get the pieces. When the reality is that during this time we have seen an oversupply of art and an undersupply of collectors. It is also normal of why this happens. So what I think would be beneficial to most artists, I would say, is to choose the collectors that their pieces go to. And that is more important at certain times than a fraction of ether more, or somebody that can just bid a little bit more. Landing in the Whale Shark collection, and I would like to say in our collection, there's certainly many other very, very beautiful and important collections out there. Landing in certain collections that give you that it's so much more important, in my opinion, than a couple $100 down the line. So that is just I would focus a lot more on the collectors.
I see. So mentioning the art collectors, what do you think is the role of an art collector, or what is the role of an architecture in an early stage industry such as crypto art?
Okay, so here's where I have probably a slightly different view, because again, I really don't collect for the sake of collecting. I really do enjoy both things, both the again, the relationship that I have with the creators, and just I guess helping or recommending certain things for their careers and how they keep evolving. I always stay out of the creative process, but yeah, I really don't. I really don't know what to say to that question.
I see. So it's kind of more about, and this kind of leads into my next question. Like, is it kind of which one do you enjoy most? Is it the hunt associated with collecting art, or is it the joy of ownership as a collector?
For me, it's about that hunt. It's about being involved. It's about writing history. It's about putting some sense into the markets as well. It's about seeing things evolve. It's about sharing all the innovation that is happening in the space. All of this is a lot more important to me than just I guess putting something, just owning something and claiming that I own it. It's more about what is really going to do for the industry going forward, and if it does well in the process, that's better. But that's at the moment the project. It's more again of a passion than it is of a of a profit project.
See. And when you talk about investing into pieces, as an investment, it's kind of difficult to, because emerging art is a tricky thing. So my question to you would be, how are you able to identify potential? How do you know when you actually stand before a really great piece? What are some kind of strategies that you use when you look at artworks?
So again, I really like to get to know the artist behind and understand, what is the reason why this collection or pieces came into being. Whether I like, I would need to like the aesthetics behind the piece, but if they're doing something that is innovative, that is a first, that is either putting it, in a thoughtful manner and doing it in the almost quality, that is usually a sign that people are going to be. This is something that is not a one-off thing. So I try to stay away mostly from most of the big hype, and I try to do the research similar. Again, it sounds cold, but similar to how you would when you're investing in doing any investment. You really want to get to know the creator and the story behind the piece, and I think that's very important.
Right, and it's interesting because I kind of want to get into this conversation of kind of timeless pieces and seasonal pieces, and in the sense of seasonal pieces, it's kind of trends that are kind of one hit and then it kind of fizzles out, but then there's timeless pieces, for example, Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, Rodin's A Thinker, Van Gogh's Starry Night, Beethoven's Fifth, and Swan Lake Ballet. And for something to be timeless, it has to have a quality of being universally recognized, even if the term interpretation among people varies. So, in your opinion, what are some qualities of timeless art are worth mentioning?
Oh, that's again a very tough question. But I would say it's one that doesn't go out of fashion. That is not hype because of the moment. I think it's one that is innovative. That is always of the utmost quality. Um, um, and yeah, I would just I guess it's always from creators that I believe like just have a wonderful career. You never have a a, or very rarely you get creators that their first piece becomes timeless. It's usually rather the combination of their career, or they're really reaching out to something that was just not even thoughtful, like thought possible at the time, in my opinion.
It's very interesting because I think that timelessness is like really a slippery veil, right? Like some of the great works of art that we know now, considered to be timeless, but they were never designed to with that intention in mind. So it's very interesting. I'd also kind of wanted to understand like what your thoughts on about like how does crypto art kind of go mainstream, and why aren't mainstream institutions adopting crypto art as quickly as they should be, in your
Okay.
opinion?
Yes, so I've been quite outspoken about this in the past. Again, it touches in a point that I mentioned before. There has been a huge, you know, everything in the industry has been geared towards the artist. And I think that it's very, very important to recognize that any market, you really have like the two sides, the demand and the supply, and that you really need to make things for collectors as easy as possible. The reality is, I don't like to be negative. I think we have made huge strides in the last few months, and I think certain platforms are certainly doing things very well. But the reality is that we do not have the infrastructure at the moment just yet. For this to be as simple as showing anybody, getting it with their phone, the same way that we send a message. Now, a lot of work needs to be done in the crypto, in the blockchain space as a whole to get there. But still, I believe there's a reason that like why somebody like Nifty is being so successful. It's because you can make an account and purchase something with a credit card in literally in 2 minutes, and I can send anybody that I know without having knowledge of blockchain to have the first glance. And I think that's very powerful and very positive, and I think that's something that a lot of platforms should be looking at. Now, another thing that I'm being pretty vocal about as well is I think it's incredibly important to start pricing in things in US dollar. I know that I'm in the small number of people that think this, but I truly think that Ethereum is too volatile, on top of an already like innovative industry that is going to really live like to, to really stop the market from really getting mainstream, because it requires a lot of the people that we call no coiners to really have to do a lot of research before they can even begin to get into the space. So I think we're reaching the critical mass soon of what we call the ETH heads, what I like somebody like me, like us, that understand and are feel comfortable working with this. But I really do think that the experience for the user needs to improve for this to go mainstream. And I am not that confident that it will all happen in Ethereum down the line, and we will see what happens. What I think that needs to continue to happen is more large known people venturing into the space and being innovative rather than copying things that have already been done by other artists, other big name artists coming into the space, or creators, to really try innovative in their field, like innovation in their fields, and just using blockchain as a tool rather than as an end. And when people start seeing that this technology allows for certain applications that were truly not allowed, just a few years ago, I think the big names are going to start really looking, making some moves. There's certainly some interest already, though. I would I can assure you that people are looking. I don't know if how many of them are planning to make a move just yet, but people are certainly looking and asking questions.
Right. And mentioning about the ETH head thing, like for future pieces for artwork collected in, let's say, like 2019 and 2020, would they be valued in like dollar value, like fiat or ETH, in your opinion?
So again, it really depends on the project. But if we're talking just about art, I would argue that it needs to be in US dollars. Again, there's just such a discrepancy that it's that in some cases, in some other cases you can justify it, but in some cases you cannot justify. Sometimes in some cases a 10x in the Ethereum price when nothing much has happened on the side. I really do think that if we want more collectors coming in the first place, it's best that we price in US dollars certainly, or a stable
Understood.
coin. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and earlier on you mentioned about Nifty Gateway and how they can on ramp like large amounts of mainstream collectors into the space. So first off, I just want to congratulate you and Mocha for owning the first dynamic NFT in the history of Nifty Gateway. I think everyone was keeping an eye on the auction, myself included, so no one could look away. I kind of want to understand, like, how do you and Mocha approach a bidding war?
Well, usually, so bidding wars, they have two, like I guess two sides to it. And on one side, they're the adrenaline at the moment. It's wonderful. There's the attention as well. Is great, but on the other side, it always makes things a little bit more expensive because emotions come into place, and there's again for the most iconic pieces and for the most important pieces, there's always other people that are interested. What I would say though is that we approach it like very very like in a very thoughtful manner, because for us it's very important. I don't know if you have seen a little bit of history of how we do things, but again, it's for us it's very important to set the markets and not be really outside. So auctions are very important because for these iconic pieces, because when you see another person bidding for it, there's it's validation that there's that this piece is wanted. And when you see several other people as well behind, I think it serves as validation. So we try to never come on with like a bid that is like three times the price, even if you really wanted the piece, because again, it's all about finding that that equilibrium that the market is willing to pay, and helping along the way. So yeah, it's exciting to live through them, of course. But there are thoughtful approaches and there's thoughtful strategies as to how we go about them. We never just, again, in the same way that creators don't wake up one morning and say, I'm gonna go and bid for this piece. We actually we are obviously always, in touch with what's going on, and really look at the things that we're going to participate in.
I see. And so, what are some pieces that you wish you had collected in bidding wars in the past?
Oh. There was a Hackatao piece in Nifty that I was bidding for, that I didn't get, that I wish I would have gotten, because it's a piece that I also liked. And there hasn't been. Oh yes, there's one. There's a pack piece. There's a pack piece that I was behind. It would have been nice to grab. But it's pretty much the ones that I've been. Oh yes, another, certainly the one piece that I wish I would have gotten, that I didn't have, is the other people. The other people piece. Yeah, I was behind a lot of them, and that was an unfortunate. I guess very fortunate, because I love what is happening there. Again, I really support what they're trying to do. I think it's very innovative and giving a second twist to what was already an incredible story. I don't know if you're aware of what Metacobani is doing with the B20 tokens, but it was obviously it would have been fantastic to own one of those physical pieces as well.
Yes, I agree. And we actually have him tomorrow on to speak about the B20, so that's going to be exciting as well.
Yeah, that's yeah. I respect, to be honest. I applaud Metakoban and for the play there. It was truly, a display of, again, of strategy, of thoughtfulness, of having a thesis, and I wish that he can execute his plans well, because they deserve it.
And so, speaking of like artists in this space, do you think nowadays an artist can be king made, or do you think it's a function of a market?
I think that is, as the market matures, the ability to king make artists obviously um, diminishes. But I do think that there's still some creators from these let's call it this first wave, that are going to become kings when this becomes mainstream. But I think now we're going to see a lot of new creators, of big name creators, coming into the space, and just very quickly solidifying themselves, in the top. And again, I think a big contribution to those creators, that will continue to be the kings in this next waves, I think will be with how they think about their collections, and their creations, and their careers.
Said. And so are there any, or is there any particular type of art that appeals to you? And do you have any favorite artists in the space so far?
Um, I don't have a particular art that I have a particular appeal. I'm pretty open. I'm very open minded with that, and as long as it's high quality, I really like it. I would say I dislike, in general, symbolism, um, because, again, I see what's happening here, as a tool, rather than as an end. So I want people to use the blockchain for the innovation that it allows, but not just, for with the tribalism behind, sometimes, that we see. So, um, yeah, yeah, I guess that would be my answer.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And so with the whole, mocha and everything like that, I kind of know what are some wishes that you have for the future of your collection, and what would you like to see happen to it?
Oh, sorry. By the way, I forgot to answer in the previous question. My favorite artist in the space. I think it's no secret that I really like what Pac is doing. Because I think he represents everything that we just discussed. He's been doing this for generations, and or him, or they, or her, or we don't know. We don't know who they are. They are actually very active in the space. They do everything with the utmost quality. They're extremely thoughtful about everything that they put out together. And in my opinion, they bring a lot of good to the space. So I really, really do like, just the general, let's call it, persona behind Pac, and what they represent for the industry.
A lot of artists in the space now, they like to kind of disassociate themselves from their artworks. Do you think that's becoming a trend of what people kind of are looking for in art pieces now? It's like, or the artists, is that they kind of want the artist to be anonymous so they can focus on the art itself.
Yeah, I think that I would only recommend that if you are particularly, you have a story to tell behind it. There's a reason behind it, behind doing so. I don't see a problem with, personally, with just I think it's a good thing to have your name out there publicly. I have my name out there publicly. Nothing to hide, nothing to get to know the person a little bit more. I personally see it as a positive. Yeah, as long as it's, in the case of Pac, it's a different issue, because it really goes with everything that they are building. But yeah, I would recommend against that, personally, if you ask me.
I see. That's very interesting. And so, yeah, so I'd kind of love to know, for your collection, like what are some wishes for the future for your collection, and what would you like to see happen to it?
Okay, so there's we will see some rather large changes, relatively soon, in how Mocha and just the brand operates, and what Colburn and I will be doing in the future. But yeah, I like to be concentrated again in being alongside those creators that I believe will make the jump to the to that second wave, that will be leading the second wave and will be writing the history of the space. So I'm really focused on those creators that are really being innovative and are really at the forefront of their particular niche within this space. So I hope that I can continue doing this for the considerable future, and just it's wonderful to be able to be involved in this regard.
It's amazing, and I think all of us, like I speak for all of us, that we're very excited to see where Mocha goes in the future and the journey that's going to be taking us. So if you had to describe your collection in 3 words, what would they be and why?
Another tough question, but probably like, I guess, premium, quality and iconic.
Oh, I love those. Why those 2 words?
I think because we have done a big like turn to really like reflect that there's now this industry, in my opinion, really needs to mature into the place where the utmost quality is what's usually rewarded and what's usually demanded. How it usually happens in other fields and other industries. So yeah, I think again we that's what the creators that we tend to focus on, which whatever they do, that they do it in the most possible quality way, and they're really leading their particular niche within that within what they do.
See. And besides NFTs, what are some other interests that you have in crypto?
In crypto, well, I mean, I guess just most of my portfolios in layer one protocols, and yeah, I obviously have a strong interest in what's happening in the DeFi space. And in crypto, it's very difficult being involved in this space like this to have your mind really on that many other things. But yeah, I certainly participate in the DeFi space quite considerably.
Amazing. And so this is like a question that it might be going to pass or is that, but what is like the best advice you have given or have been given in terms of art collecting?
Focus on the collector base. Super
Yes,
important.
correct.
Yeah, the collector base. The collector base. I always say it to both collectors and to creators. Look at who is, look at who are the good collectors there, and really, get to know your collectors and get to know your creators. So really, just the collector base. It's a really good indication that an artist or creator is doing things the right way. Very, very important.
Amazing. And alternatively, what is some advice you would recommend them not to take as a new collector coming into this space? Because I feel like a lot of new collectors, they kind of come into this space, like you said, there's an abundance of new artists, and less collectors. So, overwhelmed with all these art pieces, some people kind of just quote unquote FOMO into these pieces. So, what's some advice you would recommend them not to focus on or listen to?
I would recommend to price in ETH. And I would if they can, and I would recommend and I would recommend really staying away from most of the symbolism.
Mhm.
If you ask
Stay
me.
away from symbolism. Yes, got it.
The symbolism, so the symbolism about what's happening in the background, because what I think is going to happen personally is that, yeah, there's the audience at which those things are usually geared is much smaller. And when they say symbolism, I mean about like again about like things that are widely recognizable by everybody, like a Bitcoin logo or an Ethereum logo or something like that. Now, I do understand having small representations, but to not make it fully about that, because there's a small niche of people, in my opinion, in the world currently that are active in both the cryptocurrency space and the NFT space, that are going to find that desirable. Now, I don't say it's a bad thing, because I do personally enjoy some of those things. I just think that if this is going to go mainstream, it's going to be much easier for somebody to understand, something that is aesthetically pleasing, or that is, the most quality, than it is to perhaps find, certain logos desirable, in my opinion.
And it's interesting that you mentioned symbolism, because I remember having a conversation with someone the other day, and it was about skill based and vision based. So, you compare artists like Monet and Picasso, and Monet is much more skill based, and Picasso is much more like a visionary. And it's very, very hard to kind of find that middle ground in artists. Which one would you say you would value more in the crypto art space? Because being a visionary is important, and but then skill is also like a huge thing that people look at, because you got to incorporate the like emerging technology into your work. You got to make it stand out. It has to be quote unquote provocative.
Yeah, I tend to like the visionary aspect more, but I would argue that this space allows for people to do both, to really master their technique and to apply it in innovative ways. Again, I think we're going to see a flood of creators coming in here, so it's very important that whatever each creator does and focus on, they really become the masters of what they do. But personally, that's again, it's a very tough question. I wasn't prepared for that one, but I guess I personally, I really, I just generally in life, and in this space in particularly, I am drawn to visionaries, with the caveat that it needs to be at least properly executed. Uh, you know, you can have the idea, you can even like be first, but you need to actually properly execute it and be, yeah, that's important. Yeah.
So it's not about being the first mover. It's about execution.
Yes, so I think so. It's about actually being the first mover that actually puts out something that is usable or desirable. If that makes any sense, for me at least.
It's interesting. And, I kind of want to discuss with you the idea of cross pollination, because, there's always this phrase like stick to what you know, stick to what you know, and be the best at it. But then I've noticed that a lot of creators in this space now are starting to cross pollinate into different aspects. Like they're going to fashion, they're going to the metaverse. And what you mentioned in the beginning, you said, don't just focus on one piece, focus on, like, let's say potential auctions. Like a lot of like artists nowadays, they're entrepreneurs. That's what I call them, because essentially they have to market themselves. They're one man just promoting themselves essentially. So, what are your thoughts about, should people cross pollinate, or should they just stick to what they know and focus on that and double down?
Oh, okay, so I think as the market matures, we're going to see also that, like, again, this technology allows us to do certain things that weren't allowed in the past. Yet, I would say that it doesn't change how society operates, how just regular business practices, how just common sense generally operates. So it's too much to ask, for creators to be innovating, creating, being entrepreneurs, dealing with everything. Like it's too much to ask. I think very few people, are capable of doing all of those things. I mean, it's incredibly difficult. So I think we're going to see a lot more, I guess, galleries in new forms, functions coming up, and a lot of people helping. In the transition for certain things, and a lot of things that we see in the traditional world, happening as well in that regard. It's very difficult now for the artist, as you mentioned, to do anything. What I would say though is that, like, it's certainly, let's say for the average for the average person that is in this space, they're usually on the younger side, and it might be a good time to experiment and to try new things. But again, even if you're going to venture into something new, try to use the skills that you have acquired and apply them to this something new. Don't go into something completely outside of your realm, just because you need to show something innovative. It's actually, again, go back, be thoughtful, and see how can I apply the knowledge that I have and that I have acquired to put it into something, that is innovative. But pollinate something else, but really stay within your tracks. I would say.
That's very interesting. And speaking about platforms that these pieces are being sold on, like as async or super rare or makerspace or known origin wearable, what would you want to see in these platforms do in the future to kind of enhance that user experience? I agree with what Nifty Gateway is doing. It's absolutely amazing. The biddings, even the most recent pack drop, insane. The titles, it was incredibly innovative. But what would you like to see more that comes from these platforms? Because more of these platforms are doing drops, but what can be done even better to kind of step up even more?
Engage more with the collectors and make it more easy for the collectors. I think all of the other ones they are missing exactly that. They really need the credit card function and or at least the stable coin pricing, in my opinion, or the US dollar pricing with everything happening in the background. If they want to get the activity from the other collectors. And again, for me, it's very simple. They need to make it better and easier for collectors. They need to have better analytics. For a lot of people, you have to realize that a lot of people joining into the space, at least for now, are people coming over from the DeFi space. They're used to, they're used to what they're used to, and they really want those analytics and those ways of learning about what's happening in the markets. And we have all the tools. They're all available. They're all public. They're all reachable. So I think there's a lot of infrastructure around there that should be made available. And yeah, I guess we can talk about specific platforms and things that they can do in particular. But yeah, there's probably a curation, a further curation that needs to happen. And I don't like to leave this in a negative manner, but there's probably something at one point. One of the platform that has been here for longer might have to think about what to do with some of the legacy creators.
I see. And that's great. I agree as well. Um, so question I think all of us kind of really want to ask as well is, how long term do you invest in art for? Is it more short term? Some people, they invest in more short term pieces. As you can see with the people pieces, it's like it's insane how the pieces are going for in the secondary market, but it's more like flipping. So that would be like a week or midterm with a year, or long term up to 5 years, or potentially even long up to 30 years. How do you decide on kind of how long you're going to hold a piece, or are you indefinitely just a long term holder?
Yeah, I don't foresee to be selling any of the pieces that are really center of the collection anytime in the foreseeable future. The only reason sometimes we or I put certain things for sale is to again help, or my vision of helping the creator in question, achieve certain milestones, certain levels, to try to little by little, set the standards of what the price should be, and those things. Obviously, there's a little bit of recycling that has happened, from the past, but now the majority of the things the large majority of the things that we purchase are here for good. We are a lot more interested. We really, in our case, the majority of the things, we don't really see them as investment. Again, it's important, as any organization, for it to be sustainable long term, needs to at least preserve value and be profitable. And we'll see how that happens. But the reality is that there's no plans on selling any of the iconic and permanent pieces of the collection anytime soon.
It's interesting, mentioning the flippers, because we need them. It's funny because I feel like there's a lot of stigma with flipping art, but we do need them in this ecosystem. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I completely agree. I think having flippers is part of any market, and it's very important for it to mature. We need to have them. The problem becomes, or the issue for me becomes, when the flippers have all the advantages, and when the flippers, I guess, when the wrong people are rewarded for that. So I don't mind having flippers, but I believe that the flippers should be able to do a little bit more work. Or that the actual collectors, again, the platform should be benefiting those collectors that are actually bringing all the value. What will happen though is that we see many of these flippers taking a lot of the value in some cases, and what happens is that it makes those collectors not sticky to your platform. Uh, if some if any platform really made it so that those their customers, like any other organization in the world does, when they're better and big customers, they give them certain, I guess let's call it small advantages that make them feel like a small family and at home, that I think are very important. So that I think needs to happen for when the hype dies, which it will at some point. Let's face it, it's always a cycle, and now it's been a beautiful many months, but it won't be the case forever. When the hype dies cycles, it's going to be important to have that collector base that really believes on what you're doing. And yeah, it's I encourage all the platforms to really be thoughtful of ways to allow flipping, but to encourage real collectors to get the pieces first.
I was noticing even with people pieces, there's people who, or there's accounts that actually bulk buy these NFTs, and they try to, there's this new tactic that people are using, like they kind of like attract these like they buy just like almost all the pieces, all the open editions, and they kind of just hold until maybe one day when the mainstream market comes in, and then most of the like they control the market essentially. It's crazy.
Yes, yes, there's certainly these things are happening, and again, we're doing the first wave of innovative, let's call it auction mechanism or drop mechanisms, and we still need to see how these markets evolve over time and where they end up. And yeah, there's some people that are doing that. I personally, I don't love it, but I understand why they are there. I do think though that in most cases many of them are going to be hurt. But we'll see. Again, I have less of a problem with somebody coming in and actually, purchasing a work with the intention of flipping it. The problem becomes when literally all the works that are purchased in a single collection, they're put for sale, all of them, literally, 2 minutes later, because all of the people that were purchasing it were doing so for flipping.
Mm. Right. Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. And to kind of, end my section of the question, and so that we have enough time to go through all of the list of questions, the audience has, I kind of want to end with discussing the psychology of the NFT market specifically, and how that's impacted people's behavior. With your background in economics, how psychology has a lot to do with it, and
Mhm.
impulse emotion and so on. And so, especially with the Beeple pieces, artists are starting to like incorporate this psychological kind of, quote unquote manipulation, but it's just psychological, manipulating the market in a sense, and it's kind of using anchorage. It's like placing a piece for $1, and then once it goes to like $1,000 or like $6,000, $1,000 doesn't seem that much anymore. It's kind of like how luxury brands price their products. They have this like really expensive piece, and then they have this like slightly, less expensive, but it's still expensive piece. But then that smaller piece just kind of makes more sense to buy it. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
what are your thoughts on that, on psychology on the market, and artists kind of implementing that to, because I mean we see it in stocks all the time, how people manipulate the market with emotion. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, that I think it's certainly happening. I think it's certainly certain creators are somewhat taking advantage, but again, I think that markets speak for themselves, so you can carry the hype up to a point, but it's very very difficult to sustain something that carries significant value just from the hype and the psychology. It is true. Again, a lot of people are surprised with what happened with the people, but they don't realize that it's been 15 years of or however long it has been of a career of being the best at their career. So it's the emotions are a very integral market, a part of this market, particularly with all the hype everybody wants, and particularly with art, where every like with art that really sparks so much emotion on the person that's enjoying the art. It really all ties together, and unfortunately, I would these are things that somewhat worry me personally, because I it needs to be there in a place that is going to be actually sustainable long term. And I think that in some cases the market still, let's call it, still needs to mature a little bit to differentiate between each other.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. I think, that kind of ties into like noise and kind of like noise in the space. It's a very important in driving the market and things like that. And the psychology, like I said, it's playing on the emotion. So I think it's going to be super interesting to see how that plays out and to what extent it plays out, because you can kind of see that even in assets nowadays, NBA Top Shot and so on. It's like CryptoPunks. It's insane. Are there any like assets other than art that you're interested, like collectibles or cards or trading cards or so on?
Okay, so personally, it's different. But personally, I am not, other NFTs that I am. It's mostly the land. I personally, uh, I understand there's certainly going to be, there isn't a huge opportunity for collectibles, for cards. It's just a I guess not my priority at the time, because of interest and time rather than because of opportunity. So I focus on land and I focus on art um, at the moment.
That's interesting. That's very, very interesting.
I
Yeah,
also
and
like
so
I also
yes.
like excuse me, sorry. I also like the intersection of DeFi products in NFTs.
Mhm.
So I do like a couple projects that have been coming along, like Abegochi and a couple other things. But yeah, I do hold some other projects as well. I do own a garage, a significant garage in the Formula One game. We own a few horses in Zed, uh, and a few other things here and there, a few crypto kitties and this and that. But yeah, I'm mostly focused on the art at the moment. And one thing that we didn't mention a little bit, but what we've been doing with the museum, which is not only like collecting the art, but actually like bringing together artistic experiences, immersive experiences that people can really enjoy.
I think that sounds amazing. Especially with the new additions of audio NFTs as well. It brings a new experience and it just satisfies all the senses essentially.
Absolutely.
With NFTs and things like that and assets, I would kind of like to ask you, which one do you think is more important in terms of collecting like NFTs? Do you think time in the market or timing the market?
Time in the market or time? Oof. Uh, Time in the market or time in the market? I
Timing
think,
or
yeah. Uh, I guess what's more important, time in the market. I would say, because I think it's particularly difficult to always be timing the market.
Hmm, that is very true. Um, I think perhaps timing the market may be for more, I guess, the flipping side of things, if that makes sense. Or what do you think about that?
So if I understood the question correctly, is like what's more important, to spend time on the market, or to time when to enter and when to exit the market?
I think it's a lot. It's like the product market fit kind of thing, right? It's like kind of seeing when, like the or when to kind of go into a project. You're right, yeah. When to go into a project and when to exit, and or is it the time, like being just an early adopter?
Okay, so I have a particular view with the early adopter. I believe that just being early to somewhere, just it is important, obviously, because you have the vision. But again, it's ideas without execution alone, uh, 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 are just ideas. And being early, it's just a function of sometimes of being lucky as well. So I do think that having spending time in a market and really understanding it is the only way to actually try to have any chance at actually timing the market correctly, and coming in at the right time and exiting at the right time. But I believe we might have a different understanding of the question. uh, of the question.
I think you answered perfectly. I think it was beautiful. But yes, so I'd love to kind of take some time to kind of answer all the questions, just to make sure that we got all the questions from the audience. And so yes, do you have a particular theme of art that you have noticed sells quickly?
But I have noticed what sells quickly.
Yes, a particular theme of art.
I forget what the name is, but like I said, the figurative, like there was a time where a lot of the let's call it like the upper bodies or the heads of the different iterations of different heads were selling out quite quickly. And then I think some of the loops really do gather a lot of attention and sell out quite quickly. And there's been lately, I think a strong interest for, I believe the term is more like escapism, something like what Andres Reisinger and like 6 and 5 are doing, for example. Those I think are getting a lot of noise, and the projects within the art thing, the projects that are getting a lot of attention as well are those just like generative projects or full collection. I don't know if you've been hearing about the crypto cubes, about neolastics, about a few of the other projects in this regard that have been going out. I think those are fun projects that I think are adding a lot to the space.
And speaking about artists and how like themes and stuff like sell out in the market quickly, I kind of wanted to ask you, if someone like, what do you think about, once something sells out quickly, the market responds quickly. They notice a pattern and then people try to replicate the art. Do you think if someone were to replicate, let's say, Pac's art, or to a similar extent, I guess, do you think, what effect do you think that would have on the market? Do you think that it would sell out just as quickly, or because it's the concept is similar?
Yeah, well, I would say two things. I think certainly not, and I think this has been tried numerous times, in particular with Pac, with other creators. Just getting inspiration from him. Some obviously doing it better than others. But I think two things happen: that when you are actually the best at what you do, it's impossible that other people copy you, because they just can't. You're recognizable for your work, and the quality that the things that you put out and the innovation behind it's already done. So it's very difficult to come and top that from a creator that is already I guess known, and if you're going to be the second. So I think that it certainly wouldn't sell as fast nor for as much money. Now, knowing that there's appeal for let's keep it around Pac, knowing that there's appeal for somebody like Pac, introducing some of his just general aesthetics or some of his like getting inspiration from his work and applying it to your work, if and only if it fits with your career and with what you do, if and only if that, then I think it's probably a good idea, because it's showing that, like, clearly the market is responding to something, and it's in my opinion, it's not bad to learn the positive things from the other creators that you see.
I see. Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I think this is the next question is going to be pretty interesting as well. Do you think when COVID ends and things resume to normal, like, for example, people going back to work, day-to-day lives, do you think it will create a bear market for all those online hobbies like NFTs?
No, I don't think so. I think that this is really serving to really accelerate the pace of development of the industry. So I believe that the experiences are just going to get better and better around all of this, and soon, the NFTs will be really a daily part of our life, the same way that we send, I guess, messages to each other now, and it's just so simple. It's just NFTs are going to be literally everywhere. So I don't think. Perhaps we'll see a little bit less, activity in some of these digital spaces. But again, I think by that time, the experience is going to be positive enough. It's going to attract a lot of people to come into these spaces and be active.
Right, I see. And a lot of games, start to lose its charm for normal people over time when they look at the graphics. Is that a thing that can be a problem for NFT art as well? That people will feel the level of detail is not high enough anymore? And if so, how would you recommend artists protect themselves against that?
Are we talking about like what's happening in the metaverses or in the art itself?
The art itself.
Okay, so there will be, I think, different solutions in the future to accommodate for different things. In the most cases, most platforms only allow for 50 megabytes of and certain files to be uploaded. But rest assured that if this continues, developing and the path that it seems very likely that it will, there will be countless of other ways of including, more. Some of the more blockchain focused people might kill me for this, but there's other ways to create NFTs with more high with more high with higher size. What I would say though is that having limitations, it's always good to challenge you to really be conscious about what you're creating. I know that for music in particular, this might be a problem, but yeah, I think again we're gonna evolve. If the industry is still how it is today in 5 years, where we can only do, the 50 megabyte limits and this, then we really haven't. We're not gonna be mainstream.
See. And so next question would be, should artists, or what regulations do you think needs to be done to the market to make it more safe for normal people or the mainstream, to join the markets?
I'm gonna have to repeat that. Making it US dollar based and making the user experience. It needs to be so that everything is handled in the background for the non-technical people. If you have no idea what Ethereum is or how to operate with MetaMask, the platform should be doing all of this for you. You just want to put your name in there, your email, like put some information that you want, like for payment, and yeah, if you decide then to get more technical, then you can withdraw to whatever you want. But the ability, if you want to reach to normal people, you need to make this very simple for them. Very very simple.
I see. And so it's just kind of the easiest way to kind of adopt the most people in a way. What would you kind of see, or how do you see the crypto or the NFT art market being in the next, let's say, 5 years? What do you envision?
I think we're gonna see the full decoupling happening. We're starting to see the first signs of it. Where let's not lie. Like a few months ago, pretty much most of the creators were selling for similar-ish prices. There wasn't a big discrepancy between the different quality that some of these creators were showing in their work. And I think as more prominent, more known creators join the space, and more powerful platforms attract certain type of people, I think we're going to see a further decoupling and the market, landing on those creators that are doing the things right, that are really pushing their particular niches to the maximum quality. So I really do think that we're going to see a major difference, and once the hype is gone, a big differentiation between some of the creators. And then another thing that we're going to see is, of course, we're going to see cycles through it. We're not going to have a hype cycle for the next 5 years. It's not how I envision it to work. I do think though that there's very 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 high chances for this not to be a niche within art, but rather to be just a regular part of art itself. It's wonderfully fast how these things usually happen, but the art world is already recognizing that there's something happening here. And when, as an industry, we start treating this as a tool that allows us for better transactions, better history, better provenance, all the things that we all know about this space. When they realize that this is readily available and usable and safe and just a better way of doing things, more efficient way of doing things, I think this will become just all of the activity in the art market will be tokenized.
Interesting. And I feel like there's just always this argument when NFTs made. It's what is the use cases? And I've heard a lot of arguments for this. It's, some of them are being used for collateral and so on. What do you think will be the future use cases of NFTs?
So I think we're moving into a digital space in general. So I see one of the questions that they asked there about like why land. I strongly believe that
Hmm.
that as the experience becomes better and better, like a lot of people will prefer to go to the digital experiences and be immersed in these digital experiences that they do prefer to the most of the activities that they do on the real life. We have to realize that the majority of the people in this world don't have the advantages to really have impressive life experiences on a day-to-day basis. And I think that opening up to these type of worlds that are fully immersive with the right things built is going to open up, and it's going to be very, very, very desirable for a lot of these people, where they can come in here and just be a new person and try their new things. I think there's going to be a huge push for that. So I think that art in particular is going to be very present there, because when that happens, everybody's going to want to show, obviously, just positive, beautiful aesthetics around the spaces that they're in. So I see that as a major, major use case. That's a little bit of what we've been trying to focus with in Mocha ourselves. Yeah. That's probably the biggest use case that I see. I also think that again in our day-to-day life, we still need to see a lot of infrastructure. We need to see a lot more apps so that where you can see your artwork. You need to see a lot more TVs and just general like frames, digital frames, digital wallpapers, installations, etc. For these things.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I think now, even when I like buy like an NFT and I'd use as my wallpaper, I just show everyone, hey guys, I own my own wallpaper. It's brilliant. Um, but it was amazing having you. And
The last question, sorry, Annissa. The last question for the last question, what I would say is, I think one of the use cases is, I think some clubs or certain experiences in the future will be you will only be allowed in if you have certain pieces or certain NFTs from certain something. So whether consider like ticketing, but rather than ticketing, more like a status or a thing from the things that are in your wallet. I do think that might be a use case in the future. So let's say, like we've been talking about pack in this conversation. Let's say you can only come to this event if you own a piece that you can verifiably check that is from pack. I think that's something that can be interesting in the future for certain applications.
Yeah, I agree. I think recently we saw 3Lau and Slime Sunday also do a piece that was, I think if you own an NFT, then you get automatically, it's a ticket into a metaverse DJ set concert, which is really fun as well.
That is correct.
Which is, yeah, I'm so excited to see more of that coming into the space. I agree with that completely. But again, unfortunately, all good things do have to come to an end. But I would love to kind of end asking you one question. If you had to choose, what would be your single most favorite NFT out of your whole collection? Hard questions today. Hard questions.
I mean, it has to be Alpha from pack. It has to be Alpha from pack.
Very interesting. Let me see. Yes. Why would that be?
I think it represents so many things from pack. I think red. So red, I think mark a turning point. I don't know if you know red, but red marked a turning point in the crypto space a few months ago. But I really do believe that Alpha is really just the epitome, the like just what like a lot of the things what the pack represents. It's conceptual art. It's something that is only really possible to do through this new medium, through these new tools that we have through the blockchain and through tokenization of digital art. You couldn't have that like physically, or it wouldn't make sense. And I just think again it was it's the most important of PAX works, and it's it's the one the one purchase that really changed the direction of the collection of and the direction of where we were heading.
That's amazing. Well, again, Pablo, thank you so much for
I
joining.
have one. May I say though? I have another one that is a very close favorite second for different reasons, but I
Oh,
could stare at it for generations. I really think that the collaborations, all of them, but in particular, I was lucky enough with. I really like the one that I was able to purchase, but the collaboration between Andres Reisinger and Rack is one of the biggest masterpieces and the largest, the biggest deal. It was the best purchase I have done, in my opinion. In my life. It's called Elephant Dreams 2.
oh, Elephant Dreams. I think it was the one with the apple.
Yes,
That I remember watching that loop, and I saw Pablo owned it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I
yes,
can't believe this. It's brilliant. It looks like you're actually in it.
yes.
You
It's
know, it looks like, yeah, it's insane. I love that piece as well.
yeah.
Congratulations for owning it. It's marvelous. It's absolutely marvelous.
Thank you. And then there's again. I really don't wanna. I don't know if any of the creators are listening. There's so many pieces I truly love. That's a very tough question that you made. It's a very tough one. But yeah, perhaps next time we can do a list of maybe my 10 favorites.
Yes, oh my gosh, we would love that. But amazing. This was an incredibly insightful interview. I hope everyone learned as much as I did and enjoyed it as much as I did. Again, Pablo, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait for that list of your 10 most favorite NFTs. I think everyone would love to know. So again, everyone stay safe, stay sane, and have an amazing day, Pablo.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much for everything. Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.